Good Friday morning, Mount Olive family, and friends of Mount Olive, tuning in for another Friday devotion. I hope you've got a chance to see all the devotions we've had so far by Andrew and Sean and Ron and Brother Jason. Each one of them have done a really good job with this week, and we're not bragging on ourselves, but uh, you know they've done excellent, I thought, with their devotions. Pastor TJ had asked us to pick out something from his last week's sermon that stuck with us and to do our devotion on this week, and each one of them did so. And it's good to have like Sean and Andrew who can just step in and just fill in the gap sometimes when something comes up and one of us can't be there. So thankful for them and their willingness to help out. I'll share my screen with you. So we've all had the theme this for our city and something along that line. TJ had a picture of Wise, and that was the focus of the message that he gave, and I thought it was very good. And always, I always give a theme, and this theme is ASK. You say, let's ask. Well, it is, but it's really not. It's ask, seek, and knock. And from Pastor TJ's sermon about how the neighbor who comes knocking on his neighbor's door because a friend had came to his house unexpectedly, and he's needing some bread, and about all that happened with that. I said Matthew 7:7. It says, "Ask, and it shall be given you; seek, and you shall find; knock, and it shall be opened unto you." Now, what we have here is three action verbs. We have ask, seek, and knock. Now, in the translation, these are considered what they call present imperative tense of these verbs. And the present imperative is often a call to a long-term commitment or a cause for the attitude or action to be one's continual way of life or a lifestyle. So if I reread verse 7 in the present imperative tense, it would go something like this. It says, keep on asking, and it shall be given you. Keep on seeking, and you shall find. Keep on knocking, and it shall be opened unto you. So Jesus is telling us to be persistent in our prayer life with God, and not only persistent, but to ask with increasing intensity. So let's look at the word ask first. So asking, this is the most common way of prayer for ourselves and our family, our friends. It's just to ask God for our needs, our desires, and the needs and desires of family and friends that we have. God already knows what those are even before we ask, but he expects us to ask just as a child would ask its father. Matthew chapter 6, verse 8, the second half of that says, "For your Father knoweth what things you have need of before you ask him." In 1 John chapter 5:14, it says, "And this is the confidence that we have in him, that if we ask anything according to his will, he heareth us." So, God is still expecting us to ask. There are times when we pray and ask God for something, and he gives it to us right away. We enjoy those times. It's like prayer requests fulfilled, prayer requests fulfilled. But we must remember that we should ask with, sincerity and a proper spirit, and that our request is in the perfect will of God for our lives. If we don't, then James tells us what will happen. And that's in James 4:3. He says, "Ye ask and receive not, because ye ask amiss, that you may consume it upon your lust." Now, sometimes we ask for something that God knows is not in our best interest and could be hurtful or harmful to our Christian life if we were to receive it. Now, this is a personal story, I'll tell you. I drove a pontoon boat years ago. The gentleman I worked for had a pontoon boat, and he would ask us to come down and he would let me drive it because he trusted me more than he trusted everybody else to drive it. I fell in love with pontoon boats. I really liked it. And I thought, boy, I'd really love to have me a pontoon boat. And if you have one, then I thank the Lord that you've got it. So what I'm about to say, don't take me wrong. But I had really thought about it one time, to invest in a pontoon boat. Well, the only thing about it is there's not really any big lakes around Wise. And so I would have to take it to a lake like Cherokee or Douglas or someplace like that. So I thought, well, I could hook it up real early Saturday morning, drive down to the lake and put it in the water, and then spend the day on it, and then hook it back up, and then drive all the way back, and then be back for church on Sunday. Well, that's good in theory and good in thought, but I know what would happen. It would for me. If it doesn't for you, that's fine. But this is me. I would go down and I'd say, boy, that was really fun driving that on that lake on that Saturday. So, well, maybe I'll just stay over another day. So before long, that would become a habit and my church attendance may fall off a little bit. So I don't have a pontoon boat at this time in my life. And if you have one and you'd like to take me out on it, just let me know. So to satisfy that little thing. But I know if I had one, it would cause me to fall away. Just being honest with you. So the next one is seeking. The second part of our prayer life is for us to seek. When our prayer requests are not answered, but we know our request isn't a selfish request or one that is asked out of the will of God, what do? We just keep asking. The answer, do we just keep asking? Yeah, the answer is yes, we do keep asking. But now we start the next step in our prayer journey, and that is to begin seeking for the answer. When we seek, we are actively looking for how God is going to answer our prayer. Let's say, for example, that we're out of work and we need a job. So do we just sit at the house praying for a job? Or do we pray for a job first and then fill out resumes and applications and then go out looking for a job and seeking God to send us in the right direction? That's what I'm talking about by seeking. Or if we have lost friends and loved ones, do we just pray for their salvation, or do we actively seek out ways we can present Jesus and the plan of salvation to them? There's an old saying that says, talking about putting feet to our prayers. This means that sometimes God will use us to help answer our own prayers. Our job is to seek out God's will and how he wants to give us that answer. In Jeremiah 29:13, he says, and you shall seek me and find me when you shall search for me with all your heart. We must show God that we are sincere and earnest in making our request to him. Our whole person must be seeking the Lord. Psalms 119:2 says, blessed are they that keep his testimonies and that seek him with the whole heart. There is a blessing in store for those who seek God. Knocking. This third step in our prayer journey, knocking. This is the hands-on experience. There is a sense of growing intensity and growing involvement in the answer to our prayers. This takes boldness on our part and strength of faith in God as we are now personally involved along with God in getting our answer. Knocking is representative of us being persistent in our prayer life. Who goes to the door of a friend or family or even a stranger and only knocks once? We don't do that. We don't think, oh, one knock, oh, they must not be home, and turn around and leave. We continue to knock because we want our friend, our family, the stranger to come and open the door. And our prayer life must be one of persistence also. There's an old Dallas Holmes song that anybody who is maybe younger than 30 may not remember Dallas Holmes, but he was a contemporary singer, one of the first ones that came out. He had a song that said, when God closes the door, look for a window. Don't stand at the door, look for a window. Sometimes God closes doors and leaves prayers unanswered because he has a greater answer for us that takes time to develop. Our prayer journey is an ever increasing approach to God, that if it starts with a clean heart and a pure heart, it will have positive results. So let's look at this, our verse again. Matthew 7, 7, ask and it shall be given you. Seek and you shall find. Knock and it shall be opened unto you. Here is the promise of our prayers when we approach God the right way. Notice what's underlined now. It's not the asking, it's not the seeking, it's not the knocking, it's the answer. That if I seek and if I ask and keep asking, it will be given to me. If I seek and keep seeking, I will find it. And if I knock and keep knocking, it will be opened unto me. So it's ask, seek, and knock. Be proactive in it. Now, I found a couple of quotes from John Piper. As you know, I enjoy his writings and his articles. And I found two. The first one is about how, when we go to God, how that, we should consider it a privilege to go to him in prayer. And let me share that with you. It says, when you pause to consider that God is infinitely strong and can do all that he pleases, and that he is infinitely righteous, so that he only does what is right, and that he is infinitely good, so that everything he does is perfectly good, and that he is infinitely wise, so that he always knows perfectly what is right and good, and that he is infinitely loving, so that in all his strength and righteousness and goodness and wisdom, he raises the eternal joy of his loved ones, that being us, as high as it can be raised. When you pause to consider this, then the lavish invitation of this God to ask him for good things, with the promise that he will give them, is unimaginably wonderful. I thought that was a great quote from him. If we just take the time to consider, God, who is able to do everything, he's able to give everything. He promises good to his children. If we take this invitation, we should be going to him with all of our needs and all of our cares. And then on the opposite side, Mr. Piper gave us another quote that I thought I wanted to pass along to you also. It's about the failure to pray. It says, this means that one of the greatest short-term tragedies in the church is how little inclination we have to pray. The greatest invitation in the world is extended to us, and incomprehensibly, we regularly turn away to other things. It is as though God sent us an invitation to the greatest banquet that ever was, and we sent word back, I bought a field, I must go out and see it, or I have bought 5 yoke of ox, and I must go and examine them, or I have married a wife, and therefore I cannot come, which is actually Luke. Jesus talking about this in Luke chapter 14, 18 through 20. Now is the time, as Brother Tuday said, for all of us to join in prayer for our families that are lost, our friends who are lost. We need to pray for our church leaders. We need to pray for our town, our state, and our nation. We need to seek God that he would make us bold enough in the faith that we can spread the good news of the gospel and change our community. It's all about being light and salt, and we need to be a light to this dark world. And I hope you've enjoyed this Friday devotion. I'm looking forward to seeing each one of you Sunday. For you all who were there Wednesday at church, my appointment for Friday was incorrect. It was supposed to be Thursday, and they told me the wrong date, so I didn't get to go to my doctor's appointment. I'll be going next Thursday for him to take a look at the issue I'm having with my Achilles tendon in my heel. So keep praying for me, and I'll pray for you, and we'll see you on Sunday. Thank you very much.